Good evening. Welcome to World Jewish Relief's final fourth episode in our series of 4 Globetrotting events. For many of you, I hope you've enjoyed us visiting Poland and Georgia and Bosnia. And this evening, we're a little bit further afield in a part of the world that I suspect less of you have visited and fewer of you know something about its Jewish community, but no less important a community, certainly for World Jewish Relief. And we're delighted tonight to have 3 fabulous presenters and speakers. There's one change to the speakers. Unfortunately, Sarah Nabagala is not joining us, but Tarphon Kamya will be online from Mbali in eastern Uganda. But let's kick straight off with our first 2 presenters. I should remind you, first of all, of course, you can make a donation to World Jewish Relief throughout the evening, and I will absolutely make sure we have time for questions at the end. So if you've got questions and you want to know something of the 3 presenters, please hold your questions until the end. So let me introduce our first 2 presenters. Shireen Hunt is the Learning Officer at the Jewish Museum in London. She's responsible for teaching the museum's award-winning learning programme, coordinating community-focused exhibitions, and leading the museum's Black History programme. The Black History programme consists of the Race in Religion Black History Tours, the recent Abayudaya Jews of Uganda exhibition, I'm sure some of you will have seen it, and Black History school workshops. Shireen's specialism lies in the self-representation of minority communities, as well as the relationship between the Black British community and British Jewry. And Shireen will then be handing over to Rena Pearl. Rena has been a freelance photographer for over 35 years, during which time she has won a number of awards. A selection of Rena's work is in the permanent collection of the National Portrait Gallery, the Jewish Museum, and the British Library in London, and in private collections. Rena is an associate of the British Institute of Professional Photographers and a member of the National Union of Journalists. For many years, Rena has taught photography at various colleges, and she currently runs her own workshops and gives one-to-one tuition and acts as a mentor to photographers just starting out. And it's my pleasure to hand over to Shireen Hunt. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so very much for having me today, all. And thank you, Paul, for the incredible introduction. Now, as Paul said, my name is Shireen Hunt, and I am delighted to be here with you all today. Now, what I thought I'd start us off by doing is explaining a little bit more about who we are as a museum, as the Jewish Museum London. For to understand our vision and our mission will help you all, hopefully, understand a bit more about why programming such as the Jews of Uganda exhibition holds such a powerful space in our museum. And perhaps you have been there and visited this exhibition already. Now, the Jewish Museum was founded in 1932 and relocated to Camden in about 2010. And ever since, our mission and our vision have been clear. Now, our mission is to surprise and engage all people, irrespective of their background, in the history, identity, and culture of Jews in Britain. Our vision is a world where cultural diversity and the contribution of minority communities are valued, celebrated, and explored. So combining our mission and our vision together, programming like our Black History tours, as well as the Jews of Uganda exhibition, holds such an important space in our museum. Now, programming that surprises people and engages people and teaches people new things. Now, one thing I will say is that when many of our visitors come on site to the Jewish Museum London or attends one of our virtual tours, many of them, Jewish and non-Jewish alike, are indeed surprised to know that they are Black Jews, furthermore Jewish communities in Africa, and of course the Abayudaya Jews of Uganda exhibition. So I hope today this talk surprises and engages you all as well. Now, as a museum, we are all about bringing history to life through objects, and hopefully that is what I will do today. Bring the history of the Jews of Uganda to life through the beautiful objects, or beautiful photographs, I should say, taken by Rena Pearl, which are still in our museum to this day. Now, for a bit of context, in 2012, we first of all displayed these beautiful photos by Rena Pearl in our banner exhibition. But fast forward to 2017, we launched our Black History Tour and program. And the tour in specific, or particular, I should say, covers many things. Now, the Black History Tours at the Jewish Museum covers the role of Blackness in the Torah, the involvement of the Jewish community in the transatlantic slave trade, Black and Jewish allyship and alliance, and what that looked like, especially during apartheid South Africa. And lastly, on these tours, we cover what it means to be Black and Jewish, looking at a few of many communities all around the world. For example, the Beta Israel community of Ethiopia, and of course, the Ugandan Abayudaya Jewish community as well. And today I'm here, of course, to tell you a bit more about our research into the Abayudaya community of Uganda. Now, unlike the perhaps Ethiopian Beta Israel community, an ethnic Jewish community with their roots in the Torah in many ways, the Jews of Uganda and their foundation is slightly different. They have more of a man-made origin or foundation, if I may say so. Now, this community was founded by a man called Seme Kankungulu in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Now, Seme Kankungulu started his journey off really as a military chief, working with the British in Uganda. Now, throughout his time in this military world, he aspired to establish his own kingdom and to become Kabaka, which is king, in the eastern region of Uganda. However, due to a series of circumstances, he had to dismiss that military kind of aspiration and instead took a more spiritual and religious route. Now, first of all, his religious journey actually starts with Christianity, interestingly. Now, this religious interest, I should say, was sparked when he was asked to translate the Christian Bible by Christian missionaries, translating it from English to the native Ugandan languages. And it was at this moment that he began to really reflect on the Hebrew Bible and form an affinity with the Bible as well. But once again, he's in a Christian space at the beginning of his journey. Now, eventually he gets involved with a local Protestant church called the Bamileke. And the Bamileke regarded Saturday as the Sabbath, firstly, but also this Christian Protestant community was very devoted specifically to the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. A lot of their services reflecting on the power of Moses and so on and so forth. However, once again, it was a Christian space. However, as Kankungulu continued to explore his religion through this Protestant space, he began to grow a very strong affinity and connection with the Hebrew Bible. And eventually, he became quite dissatisfied, actually. Dissatisfied at the lack of consistency and the lack of observance this Christian community was given to the laws of Moses. And in particular, the laws of circumcision. He was outraged that the community wasn't adhering to these laws as he felt that they should. Now, the Bamileke community at this point in time believed that these laws, especially the laws of circumcision of 8-year-old male children, was only practiced by Jewish people. And therefore, they did not think that that was their responsibility in the same way. But Kankungulu disagreed. And eventually, he declared himself as a Jew because of this really close relationship he had with the Hebrew Bible and the commandments. Now, it's important to note at this point, he was very much a self-proclaimed Jew. Take that to mean what it means to you. A self-proclaimed Jew molded by his own interpretations of the Torah, but without the backing of rabbinic traditions. And that is very important to note. Now, he continued to explore his religious journey self-proclaiming himself as a Jew, but nonetheless, he still at this point believed in the New Testament and Jesus at the time, but placed a very specific focus on the Hebrew Bible. Now, in line with his concoction of beliefs, he eventually left this Protestant church, the Bamileki, and created a separate sect known as the Community of Jews Who Trust in the Lord. And he demanded that every single person in his congregation adhere and observe the laws of the Bible as much as possible. It was at this stage that Kankangulu ensured that he was circumcised, as well as his sons and all of the men in his community and beyond. Now, at this point, the community began to observe many Jewish festivals and holy days, but those festivals and holy days that had their roots specifically in the Torah: Shabbat, Passover, Shavuot. However, he didn't, and his community didn't, celebrate or observe festivals, for example, like Hanukkah, festivals that didn't have the same kind of root in the Torah. Now, I've got quite an interesting quote here. It's a quote taken from 1920s, where a Christian missionary, John Roscoe, came across Kankangulu and his community, and he was in awe. And I think this quote explains a lot, perhaps, about where the community was and what it looked like in the early 1920s. The zeal of his party is considerable, and they show a great desire to learn, read, and write. Kankangulu is a chief of considerable means and much influence, so that he is able to build schools and employ teachers in his own district, where the teaching is regular and daily services are held. These teachers wear turbans like the Jews of old times. In fact, the headdress is copied from pictures. They observe Saturday as a day of rest and keep it much more strictly than the Christians do their Sundays. They have formulated for themselves a religion out of the strange medley of ideas, and their conduct is in complete accordance with their beliefs. So we can see how observant this community has become, and how Kankangulu has created not just a religion, perhaps, or a religious community, but a culture as well. There are schools, there are synagogues, and so much more. And I would really recommend this book by Edith Bruder, The Black Jews of Africa, to learn more about this community and other communities in Africa as well. But let's move on. So shortly after this, in 1923, Kankangulu took one step further, and he built a small place of worship near his house in Gangana, in Uganda, which he named the Jewish Church. Now, 3 years later after that, he met a Jewish trainer from the Western world, from Europe. And this trader was named Joseph. And Joseph agreed, at Kankangulu's request, to educate Kankangulu and the rest of the Abayudaya community on the Jewish faith and specific rabbinic traditions. Now, following this point, great changes took place in the life of the Abayudaya. Firstly, they stopped believing in the New Testament and Jesus as a whole, really. Joseph also taught this community customary prayers and Jewish blessings. And following this point, the community began to observe Shabbat more so halakhically. They practiced ritual head coverings, and also from this point onwards, the community only ate meat that was slaughtered within their community. Shortly afterwards, Kankangulu even divorced his wife because of her lack of commitment, I guess, to the Jewish faith. He was extremely observant and adhered to the commandments as much as he could. But in 1928, Kankangulu passed away. And with his passing, the Abayudaya community actually declined. It declined due to the lack of contact with the Jewish world beyond Uganda, as well as the vigorous activities of Christian missionaries in Uganda at that time. So I want to fast forward, therefore, to 1960s, and specifically the 1962, where the Israeli embassy opened in Kampala, Uganda. Now, this was a pivotal turning point in the life of the Abayudaya community. For the Israeli diplomat, Aryeh Oded at the time, who had held a post in Uganda, discovered the existence of this local Jewish community. and decided that he would visit during Passover. Now, Abayudaya was essential in reforming the community in line with internationally recognized standards of Judaism. And he was also essential in connecting the Abayudaya community with the international world Jewry. Now, around this point in 1962, the Abayudaya community, was officially recognized by the government of Uganda. So Abayudaya played a huge role in the recognition, of this community in Uganda and much beyond. And at this point, the community began to grow. Following so, the Abayudaya community, because of Abayudaya and the connections that he had made, received Siddurim, Haggadot, prayer shawls, and other religious Jewish items and articles. They also began to observe all of the festivals in line with these internationally recognized standards of Judaism, building Sukkot on Sukkot and eating matzah on Passover. But then Idi Amin came into power. Now, the Israeli embassy also set up 2 vacancies in an Orthodox yeshiva in Israel. However, due to the reign of Idi Amin, the dictator president who was in office in 1971 to 1979, these vacancies did not come to fruition. In actual fact, during the reign of Idi Amin, he outlawed Judaism altogether in 1971, banning the Jewish community. Members of the Abayudaya community were no longer allowed to wear kippot or worship in public. To be honest, they were not allowed to openly identify as Jewish in themselves. And doing so was actually punishable by death. And members of the community were murdered due to this. Now, here is a beautiful image by Rena Pearl. And it's an image of one of the secret places that many members of this community would pray during Idi Amin's reign. Now, as I said, Idi Amin reigned from 1971 to 1979. And this was a very difficult period for many Jewish people in Uganda. But on the 14th of Nisan, 1979, which was the 11th of April, 1979, Idi Amin fell. And this was on the eve of Passover. So for many in this community, this was the first time in years that they were able to celebrate their Judaism in freedom. And how fitting that it was during Passover. Now, in 1995, the visit of the American-based organization Kulani, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, accelerated the community religiously and financially, particularly the children's schooling. And here is an image of the Seme Kankangulu High School taken by Rena Pearl again. Now, in February 2002, rabbis from both America and Israel formally converted the Abayudaya. This was agreed upon by 2/3 of the Abayudaya Jewish community, more than 80 years after its foundation. And now the community has almost 2,000 people. They have 2 schools where they teach about Judaism as a religion, and they also teach Hebrew. And they have a yeshiva where students from the community, as well as other African nations, come to learn about Judaism. Now, at the Jewish Museum London, these histories are incredibly important as part of our mission to surprise and engage all people, irrespective of their background. And these photos of the Abayudaya community by Rena Pearl have done exactly that. Engaging our audiences of Jews and non-Jews alike, breaking prejudices, and surprising people with new histories. So much so that we decided to extend this exhibition. It was originally only up for Black History Month in 2018, and it still is up today because it's such a powerful exhibition for us and breaks so many prejudices and boundaries down. But to get more of a personal touch and story behind these photos, I will now pass on to Rena Pearl. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be here this evening to show you my work. But before I actually start and go into the photographs, what I'd like to do is answer a question before it's even asked. And that question is, why did I go to Uganda? Why did I go there in the first place? And it came about because of hearing a piece of music. I went to a cousin of mine, and she told me to listen to music, and I heard this music. So after hearing it, I just fell in love. I fell in love with the harmonies, with the music. And in truth, I was so surprised that there were actually Jews in Uganda. I didn't realize there would be, especially because of the history of Idi Amin and everything. So before we look at the slide, just let me play you some music. I'm sure that some of you recognize the words, definitely, maybe not the melody, but definitely the words. It's from the Kabbalat Shabbat service, Lechadodi. So let me put the community into context. First of all, we've got Africa. Uganda is in, I hope you can all see this small map here. Uganda is the east of the continent of Africa, and the Abayudaya are.
Sorry, Rena, we can't see your screen, Rena.
Sorry?
Can't see your screen. Can you just share the screen again?
Ah, just a minute.
Perfect, thank you.
You can see the screen now, hopefully.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, just let me enlarge it for me. Sorry about that. So here we have this small map here. Uganda's in the east of Africa, as I said, and here is Umbali, which is east of Uganda, 140 miles from Kampala, which is just above where the airport is, Entebbe Airport. So the Abayudaya actually live around, in little villages around Umbali, around Umbali. It's not just one village, it's a number of villages. The main community center is in fact in the Nabagoya Hills, where the high school is, and the primary school. So you've got Putti synagogue here, you've got Namanyani village here, and then you've got Namanyani somewhere about here. So there's a number of villages. Let me go to the next. The main center where most of the Abayudaya sort of congregate and go to is in fact Nabagoya, possibly because of where the schools are. I'm just going to enlarge this screen rather than, okay. This is the Samai Kagungulu High School. And it's an interfaith high school, meaning that there's Muslim students, Christian students, along with Jewish students. The headmaster is Zef Yonatav. He's Jewish. The deputy head is non-Jewish. He's Muslim. I'm actually having a few issues here. This is, we're actually on just touring around the Nabagoya village, going to and from the schools. This is the primary school, the Hadassah Primary School. Again, it's interfaith with Muslim, Christian, and Jewish students, and there's approximately 400 pupils there. The headmaster of the school, which was founded in 2001, is Aaron Kintu Moses. He is such a lovely man, a sort of a gentle soul. And unfortunately, he died last September of COVID. Just let's move on. Now, what made me laugh, this is on the campus. That's a classroom, but what made me laugh, there was loads of signs around the campus: keep your uniform clean. And there was one, play friendly, don't drop litter, and all such signs. This is actually the office of the primary school. And he looks as if he's up to mischief. He's not actually. It's one of Aaron's sons, and he was just taking some paper into the office. But when I was taking this, I thought, you know, oh, the alphabet, but there's something wrong. And I wasn't quite sure what was wrong with it. But I knew there was something wrong. There's only 20 letters. The Hebrew alphabet has 22. And then those of you will have noticed maybe the Zayin and the Vav are the opposite way round. And I'll leave it to you to figure out which two letters are missing. This is the Yael Keke. She is the sister of Rabbi Gershom, who is the only rabbi that has actually been ordained. He was ordained, actually, I think he was ordained, he studied in Israel, but he was ordained in America. And she's also the sister of Aaron. And I stayed with the community on the first Shabbat that I was there. And I was made extremely welcome. They're such welcoming people. However, they were a bit disappointed because the first question they asked me was if I was a musician. And when I told them I wasn't a musician, I think they was sort of think, oh, well, they're a bit disappointed maybe. Sorry. This man here is JJ Keke. These two are half brothers, and this is Aaron Kintu Moses. He was at the time he was the rabbi there, not ordained, but he was the spiritual leader of the Abayudaya. Keke was my sort of contact when I was arranging to go out there. And I couldn't, he's very dynamic and person and very, you know, loads of fun. And I couldn't get a straight answer to any of my very logistical questions. All I was told was, we are happy to receive you. We are happy to receive you. We are happy to welcome you, and so forth. JJ had started a cooperative coffee farm with, again, it's interfaith, Muslim, Jewish, and Christian, and it's fair trade, and they sell it to a market, I believe, in California. This is Aaron. He's actually praying here, and this was 5 days into him sitting Shiva. On that first Shabbat that I was there, sadly, his baby of a few weeks was rushed to hospital in Umbali with malaria, and she died, so, you know, the whole of the community, more or less for the first week that I was there, was in fact in mourning. So I actually didn't take any photographs of the community, but on the 5th day, I asked Aaron if he minded if I started taking photographs, so he didn't. This is a group of villagers. This is in Nangulu village, actually, but where the Shiva house was. They're just visiting the Shiva house. I went to, just to say that I went to the funeral, and the service and the harmonies of the singing were absolutely amazing. It was, you didn't have to understand what they were saying. It was just really from, not from the heart, but from the soul. This lady here is in fact Naomi, Aaron's wife. It's her baby that died, and that's one of her daughters with, I believe this lady is her sister. This is one of JJ's daughters. Most of the houses will have a mezuzah on them, or some Jewish emblem, maybe a Star of David or something. The mezuzahs are just the casing, or they appear to be. This is traditional Ugandan food, beans on the right and matoke on the, sorry, that was the wrong way around. I have trouble with my left and right. On the right, matoke, which is boiled green bananas, and on the left is beans. I actually enjoyed the matoke. Some people don't. Another staple food is cabbage, either boiled or not. Now going on to Friday, Shabbat. This was in fact the following Friday that I'd arrived there. It's all busy, busy, busy. This is the village of Nangula again. And the busy doing washing and everything. The washing is done in a stream not too far away. And again, another adopted child of JJ. JJ has, at the time he had 24 children, 14 of them were adopted and 10 were his own. These three are three of JJ's daughters eating Friday lunch, and the lunch was of beans and matoke. In fact, here along this side here of the wall, there was possibly, I think, about 20 other children being fed. And little Sarah just getting some water from the well. And those jerry cans are heavy. In fact, I offered to help her carry it, which I ended up not doing so, because it was, she said it was easy for her to carry on her own. And so she did, and she managed it. quite well. As you can see here, there's a dreidel. These kids played for hours with the dreidel, spinning it and spinning it to see which letter it was going to fall on. And I was even given a few goes of it. Again, there are these people, well, these youths and children are from JJ's house and also Aaron's house. There again, we're just lounging about, getting ready for Shabbat. The lady on the right is JJ's wife. And Kiddush cups, which were gifts from American people that had been there. And already nice and clean for to bring Shabbat in. This photograph here was a grab shot. Aaron sort of said, okay, you can just take one just before Shabbat came in. And you'll notice that the whole family, or whomever is in the room, actually say the blessing over the candles, as opposed to in the UK and in Western, in the West, it tends to just be mainly the females. Here is a close-up of, obviously, Tzitzits on a talit, on a prayer shawl. These next few photographs were not taken on a Shabbat. They were taken during the morning, one of the midweek morning services. Because despite, well, not despite, but the Abayudaya are quite devout. They were Shomer Shabbat. They're walking miles to get to the synagogue in Nabagoya, or whichever synagogue they went to in one of the other villages. This is Yael. The prayer books, the Siddurim that they were using, were given them by the, I've forgotten who they were given, the Rabbinical Assembly in the States. And they are in fact the same prayer books that I used in the synagogue that I went to, which is Kol Nefesh Masorti. They're the Silverman's Siddur, and it's basically it's similar to the prayers, and everything is similar to the singer's prayer book. It's just the commentary and the odd bit which is different. So I felt quite at home there. And what I found strange was the Nusach, the melody, was an Ashkenazi melody, and it was like walking into any more or less any shul or any synagogue within the UK. The service was very familiar. There's few sort of tilts of African music in it. The service was in Hebrew. And that's one of JJ's sons. Again, the talitot and the tefillin, they're all gifts from various synagogues in America.
Rena, I've got about a minute left, if that's okay.
Okay, fine, thanks. This is a shul in another, a synagogue in another village. And this here is the Ark. This was Nambuma village, and all the houses had, as I've mentioned before, you know, Stars of David or some emblem on it. Naminyani village, this is a shul there. That was the ark which the Sarah was standing in front of. Okay. This makeshift tent was put up for a women's meeting, the Abayudaya women's meeting, and the women from various communities went there to the meeting. And it was my last day with the community. So I actually didn't stay for the whole meeting. But this is the agenda. There's various lessons and learnings and speeches from the chairperson, very gender neutral. And finally, this is the road to from Umbali to Naminyani and Nabagoya and various villages. This is a dirt track, and I used to, when I wasn't staying with them, because I was staying in a hotel in Umbali, I rode along this road on the back of a moped, which was very uncomfy. So to conclude, I'd just like to thank you all for looking at the photographs, and I'd like to thank World Jewish Relief and the Jewish Museum for giving me the opportunity to show them to you. Thank you.
Shireen, Rena, thank you ever so much for fantastic presentation. We feel immersed in Eastern Uganda, wonderful history and stories and photographs. I'm delighted now to be joined by Tarphon Kamya. Tarphon is, as we speak, in Umbali, just outside where he lives, the village of Nasenyi. Tarphon is the director of Jewish Response Uganda, which is a development NGO that partners with World Jewish Relief. And he's a member of the Kahal Kodesh Sherit Yisrael community, the Jewish Orthodox community located in Nasenyi village in northeastern Uganda, as Rena highlighted, about 4.5 hours drive from the capital Kampala. Tarphon also spent a year at a yeshiva in 2011. And I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes getting under the skin of being Jewish in Uganda and Tarphon's fabulous perspectives. Tarphon, an easy question to start with. Just tell us a little bit about your childhood and your upbringing in the Nasenyi.
Wow, thank you so much, Paul and the World Jewish Relief team for this organization. I'm so happy that Rena really showed us real pictures of all communities. I was so delighted to see all the pictures. Most of the pictures shown, most of them they are relatives. We are connected. We are one big family. Like the late Aaron of Hadassah, JJ is married to my auntie, Gashom is my uncle, and many, many others. Briefly about my childhood. I was born on 17th July 1985, brought up by a mother who was a Jew and dad who was a Christian, and they were all subsistence farmers. There were all subsistence farmers who grew up local crops, and the little was left for our living. Then I grew up in an area whereby there was nobody with shoes. So my elementary school, I went to a school whereby I started from elementary 1 up to my high school without putting on shoes. Then in high school, I went to Semeika Kunguru High School, which Rena showed in the pictures. Then I graduated as one of the best students. Then I had to join university. After university, that's when I got opportunity to travel to Israel, and I was converted from Israel by Rabbi Riskin with the help of Rose Asian, Rabbi Sigmund Ben Hollanda. Rose Asian is based in the UK, and Rabbi Sigmund is based in the US. And Rabbi Riskin is currently in Israel. They're the one who converted me. That's the brief history about me. Besides that, in my childhood, there was a lot of horrible things. That I was born in the times of Idi Amin, and I survived the Idi Amin era, polio, and measles. I thank God I'm still alive, and I'm here to serve. That's the brief history about my childhood.
Thank you. Tarphon, just make sure you're speaking close to the microphone so we can hear you clearly. Maybe, I mean, you spent a year in Uganda, in Israel in 2011. I'm interested, what were your perspectives of Israel, and how has it influenced your Judaism and identity today?
Wow, thank you so much, Paul. Yes, my perspective was, first of all, was to learn Hebrew and Judaism, the practice. And secondly, it was to learn, then go back home and teach my people, my community. That was my perspective from Israel.
One of the earlier questions we had, Tarphon, is trying to help us understand, for communities that are not Jewish, living in and around Nasenyi, where you live, how do they view the Abayudaya? Are your neighbors, are your non-Jewish neighbors interested and supportive of your religious identity?
Well, thank you. You know, being a Jew in Uganda is not an easy thing, being that the majority are the Christian, the Muslims. But first of all, I thank Hashem that we live at peace. We are in peace. But of course, we support each other. That's why at times, when we get any support, we have to share with others, because we're on the same soil, we face the same challenges. So we are supportive to one another.
Now, as I introduced, you also lead a development charity, Jewish Response Uganda, that I know recently was officially registered by the Ugandan government, which is fantastic. And the development agency is working with World Jewish Relief in a number of villages in and around Nasenyi. Could you briefly tell us a little bit about the work that Jewish Response Uganda, JRU, is doing?
First of all, my sincere thanks to World Jewish Relief team, that all the works here is all good. And of recent, this season alone, we have been able to support more than 100 farmers in this new season. At least this project is trying to to wake up the mindset of our common people, of the Jewish people and the surrounding. We have been able to use the support to build our own happy and strong communities around us.
And how is it, would you think, changing the lives or the futures of the Abayudaya community?
Well, thank you. It's changing that now people are becoming economically independent, that now people have waken up to work towards the livelihood, not depending on the Western world. We are now becoming our own. We are making it our own. We are owning our own. We are owning it. so that we couldn't survive on the Western world. We are making it our own survival.
Okay, that's fantastic. Tarphon, final question from me. I know you have a lovely wife and 3 young children. What do you think their plans might be, your children's plans might be when they're older? Are they likely to stay in Nasenyi, or are they going to head to Mbali or to Kampala for the lights of the big city?
Oh, Baruch Hashem, like every time I sit with my children and my wife, one thing that I keep on encouraging them that as we are building our own community, a happier and a strong community, I keep on telling them to continue wherever we end, wherever they grow up, to build their own desirable community than moving to big cities. Like those big cities also started like us. I have the hope that with time, we shall also be a big city and they will continue building their own than moving to a big city. Because we feel like we have to make our own big city in our own village.
Thank you, Tarphon.
So long as we are happy and building strong community. That's my dream for my kids and for the entire Abayudaya, so that we live happy and strong community.
Tarphon, thank you. We share your aspirations for the community as well. Tarphon,
thank you.
Rena, Shireen, thank you for joining us. We got quite a few questions from the floor, and I'm going to try and field some of these questions for a couple of minutes if we can. Shireen and Rena, I don't know if you want to join us on screen. We know all Jews love to know the numbers. So how many Jews constitute the Abayudaya community? I think, did somebody say the number 2,000? Rena, what was your latest figures there?
It's 2,000 and rising.
Yeah.
2,000 and rising. We're delighted that obviously Tarphon's 3 children as well, contributing to numbers, which is brilliant. Tarphon, is that number correct from your perspective?
The number is correct to the past year population census, but being that now we are all now married, we are having children, the number is increasing. The number has increased. 2,000 members, it has been over the past a little bit, but now, that being that there are some younger ponies, we have now younger newborns.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Rena, numbers are growing since we were there. Rena, somebody's asked us, when were you there taking those photographs?
That's a good question. I was there December 2012 for 3 weeks.
2012, 3 weeks, fantastic. I know it's obviously not so easy to travel there at the moment. Another question from Malcolm: Is there a Jewish cemetery?
Not really, and that's what our hope. That's our hope, that we can establish the Jewish cemetery. Right now, we don't have a Jewish cemetery. We bury in our own homes, our ancestral homes.
Now we've got a number of questions about which parts of the Jewish community in Uganda are recognized by various different authorities. We know this is always a controversial issue. Shireen, you in a position to answer that, or Tarphon?
So I'll just mention, when I spoke about the conversion in 2002, that was by the conservative or the Masorti movement. So it was in 2002 where Jewish rabbis in the conservative movement from USA and also Israel came to the community and converted 2/3 of the members. Tarphon might be able to add more to that, but that's what I have.
Tarphon.
Yes.
Can you add to that?
Do you want me to answer it, or are you answering it, Tarphon?
Let's Tarphon. No, maybe.
I beg your question. I beg your pardon of the question.
Just the recognition by by the rabbinical authorities in Israel as to the conservative Orthodox communities in Uganda? Where are we in the recognition process?
Well, it's a really a good question. Yeah, of recent, we first had when the Jewish agents had recognized our friends, our brothers, the conservative movement. But of recent, again, we had, there's no yet hope. There's no yet hope that we have been recognized, but doesn't make us to lose the hope, continue practicing. So for now, we are just continuing to practice Judaism, but there has been no really sure recognition by the state of Israel.
Thank you.
Apart
Thank you,
from
Tarphon. Of course.
The Jewish agents.
Tarphon, thank you. I'm afraid we're running out of time. And I mean, World Jewish Relief, delighted to be working with all parts of the Abayudaya community. You're more than Jewish enough for us to work with you and with those beyond the community in surrounding villages. Can I just say a really big thank you, Tarphon, for joining us. I'm delighted that the internet connection in Mbali is better than the one in Barnet in North London, but also lovely to have Shireen and Rena joining us today. I mean, World Jewish Relief absolutely committed to working with the Abayudaya community and partnering with Jewish Response Uganda in Nasenyi. As Tarphon highlighted, our groundbreaking program, changing the mindset of subsistence farmers to grow high-value horticultural crops to generate very significant increase in their income, which obviously they can invest back into their farming or in their families and create a level of profitability and self-sufficiency to invest in their individual and communities' further development. And we're seeing fantastic rewards and progress, and long may it continue, which we're absolutely delighted with. Can I obviously once again thank you to all three of you. A big thank you to the Connections Committee, Linda Rosenblatt and Jean Marks particularly, for putting on this whole series of events, to Sam Pearl and Vicky Russell and Emily Dean, Elisa Abigdor, my fantastic World Jewish Relief team who do all the hard work and just push me in front of the camera. I'm particularly grateful, of course, to all the participants who have been listening in. I can see there's a lot of interest on our work in Uganda, and I'd like to put together an event in the not distant future to talk more about our work with Jewish Response Uganda and our partnerships with other supporters in Uganda, which is fantastic. I'm going to leave you with a very exquisite and fun rendition of Oseh Shalom, sung by the Orthodox community in Nasenyi as a farewell evening as you rush out to your restaurant bookings. Thank you everybody for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, you coming on this globe-trotting journey. And please watch this space for any future events. Finally, if you want to support World Jewish Relief, it's very easy to do so because you can contribute to this incredible work this organization is doing in many parts of the world. And you'll see the donation link in the chat function. Ladies and gentlemen, Oseh Shalom bin Mumav from our Ugandan Abayudaya community. Thank you.
Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimroma uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'akol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'akol Yisrael. Yase shalom, Yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al Israel. Yase shalom, Yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al Israel. Yase shalom, Yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al Israel.